Lovely. Though I have to, call out that the session is being recorded, and if you don't choose to participate, you can keep your microphones and your cameras off. However, we would really love for all of you to stay on camera. This is intended to be a very interactive session. Please keep yourselves on mute while you're not speaking, and unmute whenever you're ready to speak. Yeah. We have a very esteemed guest, Jaya, with us today. Jaya's name came up in the survey saying that she's somebody people want to hear. So, I got my resources active who connected me to Jaya, and here we are today. So while we are going through the session, please post your questions in the text chat. We will ensure that all questions are answered as we go about the session. I'm totally excited about the session. So let me just jump right into the session itself with a quick introduction to Jaya. Give me 1 second. While I was just reviewing Jaya's brief, I realized that Jaya and I have shared an ex-organization. So I was very happy to see an ex-colleague here. Though we just exchanged cities, like we didn't want to see each other. So we are seeing each other for the first time here. Yeah. So Jaya is an ICF MCC, a Young Leader Awardee, ICF Coach Education Ex-Board member, and a Forbes Coach Council member. She's a mom, a businesswoman, an aspirational scuba diver, music and philosophy lover, and a self-mastery enthusiast. She brings over 17 years of experience in human resource management, leadership development, executive coaching, coach mentoring, training on coaching skills and coaching supervision. She's led HR and L&D functions in several organizations like Accenture and Siemens, and we are super happy to have Jaya with us today. So without much ado, Jaya, may I request you to come on screen? There you are. Do you want to wave your hand so that we can all see you? And over to you, Jaya.
Thank you, Shanti. Thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be here today. And thank you for choosing to be here to learn about team coaching. I'm sure all of you already know a lot about it, and I'm going to keep the conversation more conversational, like coaches like. I don't like slides, and I'm sure a lot of you also don't. So what would help in this 1 hour is we interact and we share conversations to be able to make it much more interesting. Yeah. Do I have your participation? Just give me a sign through your reactions. Just give me some sign. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's very helpful. Hey, Sandeep. I'm happy you could make it.
Hey, Jaya. Yes.
Hi.
I didn't want to miss it for anything.
Thank you for joining. So for all of you, I and Sandeep conduct a program through Abhyuday on systemic team coaching, and I requested him to be here to add his inputs wherever required. Great. So before we get on to team coaching conversation, tell me, why are we calling it systemic team coaching? And feel free to talk, like come on your audios and talk. Tell me, why are we calling it systemic? And why is it important to call it systemic? Anyone? Yes, please.
So systemic doesn't have to be team coaching. In any client environment, there is an environment of that client. For example, even if I talk to a child, parents, teachers, the home they live, the aunts and uncles, everybody forms that environment. And systemic approach would mean that I consider all of those stakeholders in working with this client. So it applies to the team as well. It could apply in one-to-one coaching. That's my understanding of systemic.
Awesome. You're bang on. You're bang on. Now let's do a very interesting activity. All of you would have paper and pen with you. First of all, draw your own system till 3 degree. What do I mean by that? Your first system is your own wheel of life. Your aspiration, your career, your health, your personal growth, your friends, your relationships. So let's draw that on paper first. So basically, make a figure and make a round around that, which is first degree wheel of life. Ask me questions if you have. And give me a sign once you're done. Don't worry, nobody's going to look at your drawings. It can be as shabby as it can be. Don't worry about it. Actually, systems are very messy. So the messier it is better. Yeah. So those 8 parts of your wheel of life, your health, your career, your personal development, your, let me see. Yeah, your friends, your better half, your physical environment, all that. Yeah, done? Done. Okay, now go to the second degree of your system, which is the system of your system. So let's say your spouse and the system of that spouse, the wheel of life of that spouse. Just connect, keep connecting. It'll become like a web and it has to be messy. So create the wheel of life of your spouse or better half. And if you're not married, wheel of life of your parents. Keep giving me signs that you're done so that I can move forward. Done. Now make the wheel of life of, let's say, if you have children, then children's wheel of life. If you're talking about your parents, then whoever is in your system. So system, your system, then their system, then system's system. Do it till 4 degrees. Yeah, is it getting interesting? Yes. Let's do that. And if now you have a web of systems on your paper, now imagine a team which is consist of, let's say, 6 people and multiply. Can you visualize? Right? It will not come on the paper. So visualize that everybody is moving with this system that you have on the paper. So multiply, if 6 people, a team is formed of 6 or 8 people, multiply that. Right? And now that team will have a manager or a boss. So their system. And the boss will have their system. So just visualize, because if you start drawing it, it'll take you at least a day to draw everybody's system. So just imagine and visualize what are we talking about, right? Now what happens is, anytime we are coaching an individual, we are asking the questions which are individual specific, like what would you like to do? Where would you like to go? From this is point A and this is point B. So we do a very linear coaching in individual coaching, right? But when you bring the systems perspective inside the room, this person doesn't only have a wheel of life, but is also living in a society which society has a wheel of life. So imagine the cities which are flooded right now. Society is a system, right? So how everything stops. Then if this person is from Ukraine, imagine, can I talk to him about their life purpose at that moment? No, right? I have to talk about basics and the thing. So a netted system, a nested system is part of a society. Society is a system. Then society is part of a country. Country is a system. Country is part of universe. Universe is a system, right? And now look at what you have drawn on the paper and identify interdependencies between your system and your 4th degree system. So something in 4th degree happens. How does that impact you? Give me a few examples of that. It's so silent here. Somebody please speak. Yes, go on, jump in.
Okay, so my spouse, she's member of some 3 or 4 women's groups who have their children, families, etc. So if I have a commitment in my work schedule and there's something that comes up, which is a social engagement, like a wedding in one of those, we have to look at what will work. I'm invited. So there is something that comes up for me. And it means I have to match my calendar to what will work for them. So it's a small thing, but that's one way in which it reaches out to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about more examples. What happened in second wave? Yes, please
Hi.
go on. Go on, Anuj. Yes.
Yeah, a recent example of something that beautifully sort of impacted us from the system. We have so my wife and then our children and then their school friends and their parents have made a WhatsApp group, and on that group there was a message that came of a video of a dog who had been rescued, and somebody posted a video of the rescuer was looking for a home for the rescued dog, and we'd been talking about it for a few days before that, just about adopting for a few months actually. And within a few moments of seeing that message, my wife shared it with me, and then we just sort of looked at each other, said that if you're in, I'm in, and that kind of a thing, and with the kids. And lo and behold, one day later, we have actually a doggy in our home, little puppy, beautiful. So impact of the system. Just wanted to share that. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm sure all of you had to rearrange your life around that.
Absolutely.
Pet, right?
Yeah.
So again, one system gets introduced and how that changes the dynamics of everybody's system, right? That's the gravity we're talking about. Interesting. Thank you so much. Share more examples. Share more economy related, country related, and actually environment related examples now. Yes, please go on. I can't see all the screens, so please jump in.
Hey Jaya, it's Lara.
Hey, Lara, go on.
I wanted to share a recent example. So when the city got flooded, when Bangalore city got flooded, I had cousins living in Divyashree. They had to move out because there was no electricity, no water. They had a nanny and they had some guests with them. So the guests, the nanny, the children, my cousins, they arrived at my place. It was absolute chaos because we didn't plan for so many people to be at home. And I was thinking, where does this buck stop? Is it Divyashree? Is it the construction? Is it the government? Is it this country? Or is it back to us as citizens? So it was this, I don't know, where the system is, but there's definitely so many steps to what happened in Bangalore that day. Yeah, and of course it impacted all of us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you see that there is very less control in any of the system. Can you control any system here? You cannot. So what makes us think that we can coach somebody and everything will be sorted? So difficult, right? What else? Give me more examples. Give me countrywide examples.
So
Yeah,
COVID itself.
Yes, go on, Manu.
I'm saying COVID itself is a prime example that how we are interconnected and the whole world got impacted because of something San Francisco.
Absolutely. Last year, when we were getting messages on our WhatsApp, even if we did not know the people, we were anxious. Not for us only, but we were actually feeling connected with this world more and more. We were feeling as if, let me hope I can help someone. That's the kind of feeling we all will. And we were also scared that I don't want to get COVID. I don't want my family to get COVID. So you see, right? So the energy were impacting even if we didn't know these people. Yeah, I see Rohit writing, Queen dies and government announces bank holiday, which impacts daily lives of people as shops are closed. Very well. Now, in last 2 years, we have enough examples, whether it is Ukraine, Sri Lanka, London, India, COVID, and so many other countries where systems are moving. And that's where we are in the middle of it, trying to coach people. Now, when you do individual coaching, basically, you are just boxing the whole context to say, what do you want? What's your choice? Where do you want to go from here to there? But what happens when the context go beyond control? How do you coach people? Right? I see some more examples coming in the chat. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. So basically what we are seeing is everything is interconnected while we haven't realized it so far. And, earlier we could box things and we can solve it by formula. Now, what happens when things can't be boxed? What happens when everything connected to each other is changing every moment, right? So the team coaching concept is connected to systemic in this way because team is a system. Individuals are system, and all the members of the system are part of a system. They're nested in a system. And then there are systems connected like you did on your paper just now, right? So just to, Shanti, can you enable screen sharing for me, please? So 1 second.
You should be able to share now, Jaya.
Thank you so much. So something like this is what you drew on your paper. It's you, your system, your family system, then another member of the system, and so many other systems connected to that. So there is clear understanding around that we are systems and we are part of systems. We are nested in systems. We have stakeholders. Organization is a system. Society is a system. Environment is a system. If today climate gets disturbed, there is a direct impact on our lives, right? Flood happens, heat happens, all those things happens, right? Now, if you have to coach a team, which is, let's say, a dysfunctional team, what kind of questions will you ask when you have systems in perspective? Give me some examples. Will you box the team in a context of environment in their organization and say, hey, tell me, what are your problems? Do you need to talk to each other? You need to build trust, or will you bring a system perspective there? And how will you do that? Give me some examples of the kind of questions that will change with it.
Jaya, Prasad here.
Yes, Prasad.
Yeah, probably we start with the goals. So how do the goals align with the organization goals and find out where the gaps are? Because ultimately in a dysfunctional team, the core problem has got to do with trust and accountability. So first and foremost, we try to find out what is the chemistry which exists between the team members, and then what are the specific goals? How does it align with the organization goals? And where are the pain points?
Correct. That's true. So you first start, everybody needs a starting point. You identify stakeholders, you start with the goals. However, your approach every time when you're coaching a team is very systemic in nature. You are keeping all the systems in mind, because if there is one system which is down in the whole system, there is an impact. So team coaching is not about coaching individuals. It's not about coaching 6 individuals. It is actually coaching the collective. It is actually coaching the relationship they have with their systems. Whether it is internal systems, which is internal dynamics of team members, or their relationship with outer systems or any other stakeholder that may be impacting them. How does this land to you when I say we don't coach individuals, we coach their relationships? How would you react to something like that?
Yeah, absolutely, Jaya. I would agree with you. Let me just take a go at this. In the sense, we all understand, all of us who work with teams, because team engagements are not about engaging with each individual member of the team. It is about collectively engaging with the entire team. It's about getting them to put issues on the table. It's about creating the right kind of psychological safety. It's about, as people were sharing earlier, it is about alignment of purpose, of outcomes. So the fact that we are not really engaging with individuals separately effectively means that we are engaging with the team as a whole. And I think that is a completely different perspective versus individual coaching, as some of it we've discussed, and the complexity actually increases manyfold because of that, because of the number of members in the team and the number of relationships, and especially when you put the systemic frame around it.
Yeah. And every system, I just want to mention, is governed by some laws. They behave in a certain way, right? Now, while it is very unpredictable to count those behaviors and dynamics, Peter Senge has actually given us 11 laws of systemic thinking, which actually helps us to look at different directions. Shanti, can I request you to add this document, both the documents? So what is helpful for all of us is to start expanding our own thinking, because I think when we are coaching individuals, we may be looking at systems that we may not be looking at the wider system. So for example, how does the eating habits of my leader is impacting his performance in the organization? How does their sleeping patterns, how does their stress levels are impacting the way they are showing up in their team meetings, in their teams, in their organizations? So going to those levels, right? Connecting the environment with the team, connecting their systems with the team. Somebody comes and say, hey, listen, I just had a small baby. I haven't been able to sleep and I'm snapping on people all the time. Is a conversation around systemic thinking, isn't it? Can I coach that person who's highly in a stress level right now? And maybe he's the boss or she's the boss. So their system is actually impacting them and they are not able to operate at their best potential because of that. So we as coaches need to start looking at that, right? Now, 11 laws of systemic thinking that you can download from the chat are basically some of the laws. And I don't agree that these are all the laws, but at least good enough for us to start thinking differently, to say these are the things that you keep in mind when you're asking questions in the team, right? When you're dealing with the team. Now, there are times when they may be easily visible, and at times there are not, but they work as a guiding principles to all of us to say, hey, listen, how does any system work? Any system, right? Give me a minute, I'll flash these 11 laws for you. Here. So let's briefly go through this as given in this document, but it's a good idea to just keep that document with you. So for example, today's problem come from yesterday's solution. So whether it is flooding in your city or it is solving a particular problem today, which creates tomorrow's problem, is basically what this law is about. Yeah. The harder you push, the harder the system pushes back. So very, very common example is Great Resignation, correct? The whole world and the whole organizational systems and performance management systems have pushed back people after COVID because people have pushed back that system because after staying at home for 2 years, people realized a lot of things about their own lives and their priorities, right? That's the reason why we are all right now struggling across the globe about what's important, what's not, what will work, what will not. We're still figuring it out. So Great Resignation is every day's conversation. Yesterday, I heard a new word, quiet quitting, right? So these terminologies are coming up because of, the system is pushing back. Now, behavior grows better before it grows worse. That's again one of the laws that you'll find examples in your own environment. The easy way out usually leads back in. The cure can be worse than the disease. Any examples anybody can give me about these three? Behavior grows better before it grows worse. Let me see how you're connecting it.
In response to COVID protocols, if we see how people did respond because of the panic, they started wearing masks and stuff. It became better behavior in a way. If let's say the ideal behavior was for everyone to be masked, and then after some time, of course, the laxity sets in, right? You can't maintain it for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be one way of thinking about it.
Mm. Yeah. And there are absolutely. Thank you for that example.
So
The
Great.
other,
Go on.
the other way, to look at it is behavior grows better in the sense, I think, what is expected of you from the system, from the society, for example. And then that may lead to some, frustrations, and, then that may lead to you actually getting frustrated and, behaving in your, your own, taking it out in some way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Sure. What else?
I've used systems thinking in my earlier profession, which was working in nonprofits. So some of the examples I can give from there. So say the Green Revolution was seen as a very big thing in the 70s and 80s, but a lot of water depletion, groundwater depletion is because of that. So that's an example of today's problems come from yesterday's solutions.
Absolutely. We are solving problems in short terms, creating more problems for long term, right? One of common example all of us go through is one day plastic was a solution for a lot of industries. Today we are sitting on the bomb. We are actually struggling with that, right? And there are several other examples. Waste management, take that as an example. Any industry that you work with is creating some kind of waste, whether service or product industry or chemical industry, creating some kind of waste. We actually solve short-term problems to say, hey, let's deal with it right now. And short-term could mean 10 years for them, but in the long term, it could be creating other issues. So generally like that, right? Great. So, and the cure can be worse than diseases. Plastic is a great example. I mean, what else can we look at? Faster is slower. Cause and effect are not closely related in time and space, very much related to any system. It's not, because all the systems are moving and everybody is a system and they have systems and systems like we just covered. Cause and effect is not closely related. It is not that if I do this, this will not happen. It's exactly like raising a child. Today you think, hey, this is the way to deal with this child. And next day the child changes the behavior, right? So every system works like that, right? Small changes can produce big results. Typical example is your coaching work that you do in the organizations where you're working with somebody for 6 sessions, 7 sessions can bring a major behavior change if they are willing, if the environment is supporting and things like that. So that's like and there are several, right? You make small changes in your routine and you can change habits. You make small changes in your food and you can make changes. Similarly, small scale, big scale systems work similarly. Doesn't matter. You can have your cake and eat it too, but not at all once. Can you give me an example of that? Any example of that? You can have your cake and eat it too, but not all at once. Shanti, they're living up to your name, yeah. Everybody's living up to your name, Shanti.
My name.
Yeah, there's so much of Shanti here. What is going on?
They're thinking.
So many coaches.
So am I.
Give me one example.
I think, yeah, it's a proverbial case of time lapse. You can have both the cake and you can eat it, but you have to eat it at different points in time. And it's like, whether you talk about behavior, you talk about exercise and health, anything, there is a time lapse between the efforts you put in and the results that you see.
Yeah.
And to me, I think, and all the 11 laws are interlinked in some ways. So, there could be another law which could talk about the same thing, really. So.
Yeah. One example I can think about my own life is I want to read the book, but I also don't want to, I don't want to go for exercise. So how do I do both the things together? Right. So various examples from our life. I see some chats coming in. Count of videos on Netflix. Yeah, you can't watch all them together. Very good example. I like it. We can become MCC, but not in one day. It takes time. Okay, yes, absolutely. Dividing an elephant in half does not produce two small elephants, right? It is not as linear. No problem is linear. We may make it linear to make it easy for us, for our brain to consume the problem, but it doesn't work like that. No system problem can be just divided. Like we actually push the solutions every time, and then push the disease, and it comes back in the future. And there is no blame. Why there is no blame? Somebody should be blamed, right? Why there is no blame in systems thinking? There is no blame, because if somebody's made good videos on Netflix, it's not my mistake. It's been glued. It's made psychologically to glue me, right? And if I'm watching that and my time is getting delayed on my assignments and all, whose mistake? Nobody's mistake. Every system is working perfectly. Netflix originators or whoever is producing them have made it keeping psychology in mind. Marketing efforts, all the marketing efforts are made to hook you psychologically. So they're doing their work perfectly. We are getting hooked, they're hooking us, right? So every system is working perfectly, and hence there is no blame. Correct?
And yeah, for me, sorry to interrupt. I was saying I have a slightly different take on this. I think it's also the fact, and that's what makes systemic thinking so complex. There, for everything you have, you can blame somebody else. So there is no blame for you, because you can pass on the blame. And I think that is the challenge of systems thinking, really, or systems effect when we work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Idea is, first of all, when you're coaching people individually, you're just dealing with one limited system. So we somehow find some blame, let's say, may not call it blame, but coach people to figure out their way out of that. Now, what happens when I'm talking to a 6-member team and they're dealing with very complicated issues, which can't be solved, right? Which can't be solved. So how do you coach them? So actually, team coaching or systemic team coaching is aimed at creating more maturity in individuals to accept few things, creating more maturity in sorting out relationships to make things easy. Because in systems, it's not important. It may not be possible to solve everything. It's just not possible. As Deming had said, 95% of performance system data. Absolutely, Deepak. So team coaching is basically focusing on enhancing the maturity and trust levels versus solving problems. It's not focusing on performance. It's focusing on enhancing the bond and trust in the system to be able for them to take some decisions and accept places where they can't control few things, right? Which also means that as a coach, I'm not only coaching. I have to do several other roles as a coach. So I'm at one point in time a system. I'm one point in time I'm a facilitator. I'm also a storyteller. I'm also a problem solver. I'm also a coach, and I'm bringing different methodology into the picture. So look at it this way. So the second document that you downloaded is from ICF. They have defined team competencies for us last year. And it says that team coaching is really about team development. All right. You're not solving anybody's problem. You're solving team's problem. The idea is it has to be long-term. Team coaching have to be long-term for teams to become enabled and manage their maturity and their issues on their own. Because we are working with systems and we clearly understand not everything can be solved. And we also understand that these teams are intelligent enough to solve their own problems, right? So I'm not here to manage their conflict. Very important, because that's a place we may get into. We may be called for at times when somebody's called, hey, my team is dysfunctional, can you come and help them up? Because people are not able to have difficult conversations smoothly. Yeah. So you see team building, team training, team consulting, team mentoring, team facilitation, team coaching. Team coaching. So these are different modalities that we all use in our roles. And if you are someone who has been using all these different modalities, it's a great idea to get certified on team coaching, because that adds to your offering and helps you make a better offering for organizations. So team coaching is usually a long-term engagement. Team building, team training, consulting, mentoring are all short-term, very focus-based, very problem-based. And team coaching is more about maturing the team over the time. In team building, you'll be using exercise. Team training, you'll be having a curriculum. In consulting, you're sharing your expertise. In mentoring, you're sharing observations based on what has been asked. In facilitation, you're facilitating a dialogue. And in coaching, you're partnering with the team to think. The whole idea of coaching profession is to help our clients think better, for them to become generative and reflective in their nature. So it's not a one-time, it's a basic. Even if I'm working with somebody for 6 sessions, I'm developing them for life, right? That's what coaching does. So that's what we need to do for teams to develop their thinking, their maturity level, their way of generating answers for themselves. So this table is available in that document that Shanti shared on the chat. So go through it at your leisure. The only thing you need to understand here is team coaching is a long-term, very mature kind of initiative. So when you're getting into any kind of engagement, or if you have a query from any organization, please make them aware about these things, because they may not know. Right now, it's a new concept. A lot of organizations do not know. They may call you for an intervention without knowing too much about the team coaching stuff. Does that make sense? Yeah. Let me just stop here and ask if there are some questions. I know there are some questions. Shanti, can you help me pick up the questions we can look at?
The first question is from Rohit. Is it right to say environment outputs the behaviors, change the environment to change the behaviors in a system?
Very well said, Rohit. At times it is possible to change the environment, to change the behavior, which is the ideal thing to do. However, a lot of times it's not possible to change the environment, right? So for example, if problem is related to an individual and I feel that Bangalore is not suiting me because of pollen, I can change the city and very well change my system and solve my problem. But what if my whole system is in Bangalore? My family, my children are studying, and I have connected system and dependencies and interdependencies, then it's very difficult to move the system. So what do you do in that case? For a typical example, let's say a factory. A factory is established in a particular location. There are problems related to location. Can you change the location all the time? Not possible. It's a very expensive proposition. So yes, changing environment does help shifting problems. In some cases possible, in some cases may not be possible. A lot of times, let's say you're dealing with a team. One person is a problematic person, but this is the person who is bringing the maximum revenue. Can you pull that person out? Very rarely that happens, right? In reality, that doesn't happen. Okay, let's go to the next. I hope I answered, Rohit. Please tell me if there is a further question on that.
Yeah, I'm going on to the next question. Abhimani or Aziz, could you share the typical time duration of a team coaching intervention in light of the statement that the team coaching is of a longer duration than one-to-one coaching?
Yeah, so honestly, team coaching is supposed to be a continuous engagement. However, budgets and everything else, look at it for a year-long engagement and look at it, obviously, set the expectation with your stakeholder that you will be playing different roles. Also tell them your boundaries, what you will not do, because we end up doing a lot of other work apart from the contract. So a typical year kind of an engagement. Sandeep, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I would agree with you. Actually, it also a little bit depends, because a lot of organizations also take team coach to support, for example, a transformation project where the teams are going to be under pressure and you want a coach to be able to support them, to be able to help them think better, to be able to table issues. Now, sometimes these transformation projects could run for 18 months, 2 years, whatever, and they may want to have the same coach engaged. But I have not seen an engagement in my own personal experience of less than 9 months. And I must also say that, yeah, I have seen engagements going to up to 2 years. So that's been my experience.
Yeah, and I think it a lot depends on who's hiring you and what is their expectation. What is the size of the organization? Typically, I would think that if there is a small organization and they're really seeing value in your work, they would like, and obviously there is a structure around team coaching. So there is again contracting against that, goals against that, which helps the stakeholders see the continuous value you're generating. Obviously, the feedback from the team will help. However, there is a complete structure. So look at it at least 8 to 9 months of engagement and can go on based on your experience with them and how you're able to influence their expectations rather. Make sense? All right. Thank you so much. Let's go to the next question.
Yeah, Piyush asks, it appears that organizations do have some understanding of one-to-one coaching today in the Indian industry. How much is the understanding or demand for team coaching today in the Indian industry or globally for that matter?
Well, honestly, the scenario is changing. I and Sandeep do get requests about submitting the proposals for team coaching while they may not understand the technical stuff, similar to coaching, right? Technically, very few organizations understand what it means to hire a coach. However, there is fairly good amount of interest, especially after COVID. It's accelerated because the organization culture is in question in most of the organization, and team coaching is looking like one solution to them. And yes, I mean, I've already done a couple of projects on team coaching, which basically coming from the same organizations again and again, which means that there is a demand and there is fair amount of curiosity we are noticing.
Sure. The next question comes from Prasad. How effective are the tools like Belbin team roles for team coaching? Before you answer that, there are people who are not able to see the documents I've posted in the text chat. I actually did so again. If you still are not able to see, just hang in there. I will mail it out to everyone who's registered. So you will see that soon.
Yeah, if you just scroll up, it's up. It was posted around 6:54, so you may be able to find it. All right, so as far as tools are concerned, listen, all the tools are made from research. So I can't say this tool doesn't work. I'm sure every tool works, correct? I have not used Belbin personally, so obviously I can't comment on it, but definitely every tool helps. Every tool is in Hindi, a zariya to reach goals. So whichever tool you use, it's basically a way to reach and create goals for any intervention. That's how I'll answer it. Sandeep, you want to say something?
Yeah, Jaya. So I just wanted to make 2 points. First was, about team coaching. I think it's important that if organizations reach out to you for team coaching engagements, sometimes the challenge with the organizations is that they believe that team coaching is just individual coaching multiplied by the number of people. They believe that you are going to individually coach multiple people, and that's what becomes team coaching. I think Jaya was very clear when she started that we are collectively engaging with the team. We are not engaging with individuals. And I think this is an important distinction to explain to the organizations if ever you were to get involved in team coaching engagements. So I think that's an important piece. On Belbin or any other tool, I completely agree with Jaya. It's just a starting point. It's good to have some kind of an assessment because it's easy to start discussions then. It's easy to build on what comes out of that. And you can then build an engagement or the next steps around that. So I would suggest leverage certainly this thing, but it would take you probably help you for the first 2 or 3 sessions. It will help you structure the engagement better, but nothing beyond that.
Yeah, and I would also caution all of you to not take individual coaching as team coaching, thinking that I'll coach 10 people and it becomes, because you get into trouble because they have their dynamics going on. and everybody's trying to defend their own seat. So that's the reason team coaching is basically treating team as an entity and not individual. So we also avoid talking to people one-to-one because we want them to talk as a team. So we create their identity to say, talk about team. Your individual issues, you need to talk to each other and solve. So we also in that process develop coaching skills for them to start thinking better, to say, hey, listen, what question do you need to ask yourself at this moment when you're dealing with this, rather than coaching them? Because when I'm coaching individual, I have to take care of their personal goals, which becomes a very difficult task if you're trying to apply that method. Yes, I see 2 hands being raised. Please go on. I think Deepak raised it first and then Manu.
Thank you. So that's a good distinction to make whether what is a unit to be coached. So the unit is the team compared to unit can be the organization as well, but the unit can be the team, can be the individual. Have you come across instances where you felt there is a need to do team coaching along with individual coaching? Whereas a lot of things came up during team coaching that perhaps some individuals wanted specific help on. And you felt the need that there could be a parallel personal coaching also happening at the same time. So that's
all the time. Yeah, all the time. It is always happening. A couple of things you can do there is, number one, see what's the role of that person. Let's say your team manager wants to get coached and they want to talk about the team, and then you're coaching the team. Becomes highly complex, right? Couple of things you can do is invite another coach into the system to say, you take care of one-to-one, let me stay unbiased after. That's one thing you can do. Number two, see if that's a common problem that everybody in the team facing and address it in a team. Yeah, because if it is related to trust, worthwhile having a conversation, because if this person is feeling trust issues, others may also be feeling it. So be conscious about how you're dealing with it. There are a lot of coaches get into both. At times nothing happens. Very good for you, but there is a possibility of politics and personal biases and complexity, people dynamics getting into it. So just be aware about those things. Yeah, I'm not saying no, and I'm not saying total yes. It's a very context-based conversation. Yeah. All right, Manu.
Yeah, so I want to sort of ask for your experience in terms of the dialoguing, like in a one-on-one or in a group coaching scenario. There is the coach who asks a question, there is introspection, and then there's the answer, and then there is another question, and so on and so forth. In a team, how much is the coach the single reference point, or do you encourage dialogues between the team members, and then you sort of kind of come only once in a while?
So I think both happens. When you're starting an engagement, there is a need to lead a bit like you do in one-to-one. You set expectation, you basically model the behavior. You also tell them how this will work. So you basically drive some conversations in the beginning, but the end goal is actually to encourage them to start having conversations among them without your intervention. So that's when you start seeing that if they are able to have open conversations among themselves, that's a good thing to happen. That's where we want them to go. Make sense, Manu?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Lara?
Hey, Jaya, I wanted to ask, these relationship systems, they are constantly emerging, constantly changing. So how do organizations look at the longevity of the work done with team coaching, and how long? You mentioned a year almost in terms of how much you work with them. So how does that angle play out, when there's constant change? Because the team itself has its identity.
Exactly.
Which is separate from an individual's identity. So do you look to actually establish that identity when you start working with them?
Yes, that's one of the process. That's one of the process. And again, for example, in your one-to-one, you do reviews to see how the landscape has changed, how the goals have changed. You do the same thing in team coaching also. You do review with the stakeholders to understand where are we and what has changed. That's how I'll answer.
Yeah. And maybe, Jay, if you permit, would just like to add something. I think an essential skill, I would say, in team coaching is the skill of facilitation. I think a lot of work that we do as team coaches is also around facilitation. And facilitation is where you get the people to think for themselves or create a kind of a process where you are not so much involved with giving your views. You're being the catalyst, which helps them kind of, share thoughts and come up with a outcome, a solution, or, maybe things to do in the context of a behavior. So I think facilitation is I would say it's a skill which you need to have if you are taking a team coaching engagement, because that's how you engage with the team. You engage with the team through a facilitative process. So that's an important piece.
Yes. So Sandeep, are you saying that facilitation as the coach's skill, or are you helping them to develop certain skills so that after you are gone, they can carry on the identity of the team?
Both.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So you're sorry, go on, Sandeep.
Yeah, no, exactly the same thing. I think both. You kind of begin by being the facilitator and lead the team by, let's say, some of the team members being able to play the role of facilitators. So, it's like saying that you have to die before you die types, which means that when you exit the engagement, the team should be able to work perfectly well. Now, perfectly well is obviously in quotes, but they should be able to work better than they used to work before you came on board. So you have to build the capabilities within the team to do that.
Yeah, there's a saying, right? That if your coachee can say that we did it ourselves, that's a measure that you've done a good job. You don't need more dependency. You want the team to say, listen, it was helpful to have Jaya around, but you know what? We are a great team. So they need to own that achievement, that work, because we know what the work we are doing. I don't want them to say, wow, great team coach we got, but we want them to own their success, their achievements, whatever we have done, we know what we do.
Yeah.
Right. We're creating spaces and all that. Yeah. Does that answer?
Yes, I think so. In terms of even if they change as a unit in the future, people come, people go, systems change, they can still hold true to whatever they've decided is their identity, I guess.
Very interesting. When they change roles, they should be able to take away those coaching lessons for their new teams. That's what I'm aiming for. That, hey, listen, I've coached you. You're coached for life.
Yeah.
At least for those internal issues, you're not struggling. Those dynamic issues, you're not struggling. There can be new problems always, which is fine. Absolutely okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Jaya, there's a question in the text chat, if I may ask before we move to Saudamini.
Yes.
Is there a sequence or any order, like a bunch of folks who have gone through one-on-one coaching need to now go through team coaching? The organization may look at a cost optimization. How does one respond to this?
It depends on what the organization is looking at. There's no sequence. You can directly start a team coaching or a group coaching engagement. Actually, these days, because the power of coaching is being realized, we have been called to do a lot of team coaching and group coaching work because that helps them save cost. So in that scenario, at times one-to-one coaching doesn't even take place. So there's no sequence to answer to your question. Anything can take first.
Saudamini, you may ask your question.
Hi.
We can't hear you well, Saudamini.
Well, hi.
Type.
I think
Saudamini,
this
do you want
is
to
regard to
type?
facilitating also.
Okay, we are not
hello.
able to hear you clearly.
I'll type and I'll send it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. I see Piyush asking a question. How important is it to have a team of coaches, at least two to coach teams, given the complexity? It's a good idea to have two coaches. Depending on what's the size and complexity of the organization, what is going on at that moment for them. Maybe they're going through a merger and acquisition. It is actually a lot of respite for the coach who's working there, because that person gets, so that's why we talk about supervision, because we all also get clouded by the information that is being fed to us from the system. Now, a stakeholder will feed me with another some information, and the team will feed me with another information. For one person to deal with all that, we have our own blind spots, right? So having two coaches and going through supervision is recommended. In fact, if you look at the ICF document on team coaching, it really is high recommendation about going through supervision to be able to spot your own blind spots when you're doing team coaching. And to answer to your question, it is a good idea. If it is a small, simple team and it is just a progression, you take a call, you can always do it one-to-one. We used to do one-to-one coaching alone. Working with coach has its own. Absolutely, you're right. That's what we teach you in the program. How do you deal with the dynamics between two coaches and then the team and the stakeholders, all that we talk about. Yes, Deepak, you have a question. You're on mute, sorry.
Yeah, sorry for that. I was just referring to what Sandeep was talking about, teams having transformation budgets. So is it almost necessary for the team to have a transformation story before they engage in team coaching?
So it's not necessary, Deepak. Having said that, today, I think one of the biggest challenges organizations and team faces is that you have to transform while you perform. No organization can say that we are out of our transformation mode, let's say, because there's always something happening. So I would say that, yes, a lot of times transformation becomes a good hook to get the team coach in, but it's not the only hook. Actually, in some ways, I like to believe that you could be the one who could trigger the transformation thought process if you come on board as a coach, because you're going to look at things from a different perspective and you're going to make the team think differently.
Yeah, so that was what I was hinting towards. If there is not a transformational budget, will the coaching process create or imbibe a transformation story for the team itself?
Yeah, because transformation is also cultural transformation, right? So it's about behaviors as well. So you may start working with the team on a certain set of behaviors. A lot of organizations do this. They have their value statement, for example, written, but that value statement has never been converted into actionable behaviors. The team coaching could just be about getting the leadership team to think about those values, convert them into actionable behaviors, and practice those behaviors.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sandeep, there's a question for you in the chat.
Sorry. Yes, Ramni. So there is no doubt about it that when you read the documents, there seems to be a very thin line between facilitation and team coaching. And as I was saying, that we certainly use facilitation skills as a team coach. Having said that, team coaching is not only facilitation. So team coaching is facilitate your capabilities as a facilitator, which are deployed through the eyes of a team coach. So facilitation typically is a one event exercise. So you would engage with a company around a certain outcome and you'll have a facilitation session. In team coaching, you may have multiple facilitation sessions, but they are weaved together as a team coaching engagement.
And another perspective there is coaching is facilitation in a way. You're facilitating awareness.
Absolutely.
Right? So the definition of facilitation itself is blur in our minds. Coaching is a facilitation of self-awareness. Awesome. Great. So I see we're at the top of the hour. 2 documents that I shared with you, 11 Laws of Systemic Thinking and ICF Defined Team Coaching Competencies, will tell you the differentiation. Look at it. Here are our email IDs, mine and Sandeep. Please feel free to reach out. We conduct a program just starting on 11th October in case somebody is interested. Some of you are also certified. I see our participants here. So reach out to them in case you want to know more, and happy to have any conversation without any obligation. And over to you, Shanti. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Binay, I will have your question next, but as we give a breather to Sandeep and Jaya, couple of announcements. Our next session is 3 weeks out, not 2 weeks out. As we are all busy with, festivities, end of September, first week of October. Our next session will continue our journey and learning around team and systemic coaching with a twist. So the next session is called Experience Team Coaching with an EMCC flavor to it. So do look forward to registering and attending. I'm going to paste the link into the text chat now. There you go. Also, I would like to remind all of you that we are meeting for an in-person session on 24th between 3 and 6 p.m. at the Karnataka Golf Association, Old Airport Road. We definitely look forward to seeing all of you. Lots of connections, networking, interactions, and loads of fun. So I am excited. I hope to see as many as you as possible. So Vinay, over to you for the next question.
Thank you so much. Not a question, but just a testimony that I was the batch with Jaya and Sandeep last year on systemic team coaching. I would highly encourage. So my background is I'm a VP in HSBC Bank, where predominantly we do coaching as well. But I think systemic team coaching would give the scientific way and a lot of insights, which is already established, to take it further. So I would highly recommend if somebody is in the position of a business coach or a team coach in the company or wish to do that, it's a really good one. Because I have faced it, I have seen the benefits. So just want to share my thought process here. Thank you.
Thank you, Binay. Thank you for your good words.
Thanks, Binay. Thanks for the appreciation.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. And please feel free to reach out for any conversations. Happy to be available, me or Sandeep.
Yeah, and thank you from my side as well. Thanks, Jaya, for this opportunity, for reminding me also today that we have the session. And nice that I was able to make it. And it was great fun interacting with all of you. Thanks, Shanti. Hope to be back some other day. Thank you.
Jaya.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Call out, we've
Thanks,
had
bye-bye.
the best participation today. At one point, we were 64. We've never touched
Yay.
that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.